This week on RSBANDB Update, Sanctum of Rebirth arrives on July 22nd, and we discuss Jagex's new level of details for reveals and what was coined as a Hooli Classic. Also new Vintage Beachwear, and another look at what could be causing bonds to increase in price. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 994, recorded Thursday, July 11th, 2024. The Hooli Classic. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week here, sitting in through the middle of July, heading into summer, still out on the beach. How about you? You still there, Pernasius, at the beach?
No.
Okay.
Gave that up. I did it for a few days. I'm actually about to head back there right now because we're on the show. But yeah, I haven't done the last 2-3 days. What are we, Friday? So Tuesday was the last day I was out there.
Okay, fair enough on that. But of course, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to RSBANDB Update. We're going to be talking about the RuneScape news this week and, maybe a little bit of community stuff too along the way. If you want to follow along, full show notes can be found over at update.show. We also have a friends chat, which you can find in-game at BitsBytes, and we have the community Discord as well at update.show/Discord. But I'd also just like to give a big, huge thank you to all of our experienced tier Patreon members who make RSBANDB Update possible. This week, that's Amos Reed, Andrew C., Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, and The Naked Captain. Big, huge thank you to everybody out there for supporting us. More on our Patreon offerings a little bit later on the podcast. But Pernassi is still filling in for Tanis this week, so...
Yes. People have to put up with me again.
Yeah, that's okay, though. I mean, it's not as though that there was much happening this week, and people enjoyed our little roundabout discussion we had last week, so we're going to try and do the exact same thing this week. And we have news that on July 22nd, Sanctum of Rebirth, the first boss dungeon, will be arriving with this. And next week on the 15th, a few days after this podcast goes out, the new Underworld Hard and Elite tasks will be arriving, which is the natural extension from the City of Easy and Medium tasks. They're renaming it to just Underworld, which I think makes sense, just to kind of expand things out and, give you more of a canvas to work around or work with, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah. They say in relation to the Sanctum, this is, of course, governed by Amiskit, and what they say through this is that discover the entrance to the Sanctum and confront Amiskit's powerful soul devourers, Vermix, Kezalam, and Redacted. I'm beginning to wonder if there's going to be a bit of a lore surprise here with this when we arrive, because the interesting thing is, of course, we talked about the rewards last week with the set effect and the changes to the abilities and the changes to death, right? Which is the things that everybody's talking about. But aside from that, we know literally nothing about this piece of content so far. Which...
Yeah, they haven't given us much at all other than really a name and that it's going to be a boss dungeon.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's been a long time since they've done something like this. And they say with this, they're trying something a little bit more different than the tell-all approach that they usually take. And there's magic in the Discovery of Day 1 update, so with this, they're testing out changes to their communication to see how that goes. And I can imagine everybody maybe recoiling at that, because you remember back in the day when we had the behind-the-scenes videos, everybody knew what was coming down to the last detail, and sometimes that bit them in the butt. But... I don't know if this is necessarily going to work, or if people are going to be pleased with this. Mod Hooli went into it a little bit more on the Reddit last Friday, and with this said that over the past few years, they've been packing the content reveals with as much information as possible. And they say, well, that's awesome for theory crafting and getting prepped. There's a feeling that they might be stripping the magic of day one a little bit out of the releases. So I guess that's the question. Do we prefer to go in 100% blind to these things, or do we like to know everything going in?
Yeah, I like to know a little bit, but I don't want to know everything. I mean, half the fun of playing a game is the discovery.
Yeah.
So for me, not knowing a whole lot, just knowing a general outline and, what I'm expected, like, as I said, we're getting 3 back-to-back bosses. Great, even the names, that they're telling us, Vermix, Kezalam, and Redacted. I mean, I don't even need to know their names. Just there's going to be 3 bosses. They're going to be Soul Devourers, and bang, away we go.
Right, and then you kind of lean into that and say Soul Devourer, and you connect the dots, and you can kind of see where they're going with that. That's why I said it's going to be, like probably a lore ramification kind of thing, just like it was when we ran up against the Blackstone Dragon, for example, or the Ambassador.
Exactly.
With that.
Yep.
But they also say in the post that some of the most memorable releases have involved a mix of upfront information with room for discovery on the release, and those memorable releases are the ones where players are the experts, uncovering the secrets, providing the solutions, and share the first screenshots of those before unseen areas that have just been discovered. For me, the one that always goes like this in the utmost of saying, there's going to be content, but we're not going to tell you what it is, was the Construction launch back in 2006. And I realize it's probably an entirely different company since then. And, of course, it's an entirely different world as well. But Construction was teased with the fact that you were going to be able to you would be able to make chairs that you can sit in and make clockwork cats. And that's really all there was to that. And we also got Desert Month as well, and that's when they put Desert Treasure out, and I can't think of a more impactful quest at that point in time in the game's history than Desert Treasure. So there's an absolute, precedence for these sorts of updates truly smashing it through the roof and delivering on what the players, in many ways don't know that what they want or don't know what they need, right? So I'm hoping that the Sanctum will land in that category rather than being something that lands on day one and needs, a bunch of, balance tweaks around the edges, drop table tweaks maybe. And, there have also been cases in the past where content has come out that's needed a few general glitch fixes as well on that. So there's in effect 2 worlds they can walk with this, and it'll definitely be interesting to see where people land with that.
Yeah, they do need to be careful with glitches and such, because obviously it is boss fighting, and much as I'm sort of more of a skiller, cluer type thing, I'm not big on bossing. I do a little bit of bossing. You don't want to sort of screw that up sort of first up, because first impressions count. People still hate on Menafos, even though it is so much better and for that, because of the those sort of first impressions and the way they did things.
Yeah.
So drop tables is always a tough one. I would rather see a weaker drop table at first that can be tweaked better, rather than something that is just so overpowered that it just sort of nullifies everything else. It's hard to. It's a lot easier to give than it is to take away.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, folks, listen to the Old School show this week if that's something you want to hear about, because we're going to be talking a lot about that, about Old School's tormented demons, in terms of how that landed. I know. Early for the Old School update plug, but youtube.com/@OSRS update or update.show/OS.
While it is early, what you were telling me about it, I mean, it's exactly the same thing. It is, it's very tough to do that type of thing, and especially for something that is so iconic as your Tormented Demons and what comes from it and what they're doing over there. I mean, it does make it tough, and as I said, it's a lot easier to be light on rewards first up and add them as people saying, yeah, it's a fun boss, but it's not worth it for the money. Well, now we can sort of tweak it up rather than saying, oh, wow, look, I can earn 250 million an hour down here.
Right, and you want to make sure that you that you're going to be able to, in effect, walk through that and not have any major problems with that. And in general, I hope that it works out, because they also say there's great examples from the past that make us want to try this, like Nex AOD, which had undisclosed drops that the community got to discover and have that communal holy crap moment. And I think that's what they're probably going for with this, because you remember back at the roadmap reveal, they said that there was going to be something coming out with the PVM encounter on this roadmap that would allow you to take weapons past tier 95.
Yeah. And that's it. And that you want those oh wow moments. You want that experience, and especially for high level PVMers who okay, they've got their bosses and they can make their bills, but they also want to have a wow moment. And if you can do something that people are going, holy crap, what's that? And then it's something phenomenal, and everyone's sort of jumping up and down, and it gets that hype, and then more people go and try it out and things like that. I mean, it can only be good for the game, and what is good for the game is good for all of us, even though it may not affect us personally. If it's a high level boss, if it is good and it draws people in and draws them back from other games and things, it's always a good thing.
Yeah, and there, Hooli was also very careful to stress that this doesn't mean that right-click examine and beta programs are going away with this. It just means that when it comes to actual content, things might be a little bit less detailed, not focusing on the transparency. So, and overall, I think that it's a good opportunity for that to be done, because he says with this that boss releases are in general a pretty secret affair, and they want to see how this affects the day one feeling, and if this is the right kind of thing to test this out on. And could you imagine how people might have felt if they were discovering something like archaeology off the bat without the detail behind it?
I mean, I would have found that brilliant myself, but I think because there was so much behind it, it may have not gone down with that sort of community who want to know everything right now.
Yeah, and I also think is that you look at the way games have telegraphed things over the year too. I feel like we're in a different era with that, where for most games out there, you can expect, full detailed rundowns of everything that's new, everything that you did in your patch notes when they arrive. But at the same time, you got to remember that this game, RuneScape, is the one that pioneered the free-to-play weekly update model for it. So, overall, hopefully, things will go well on that. And I had to chuckle at the end of the post here, because the post written by Mod Hooli says, so that's it. A bit of a Hooli Classic for it to be such a wordy explanation. Which anybody who's been around the block with Mod Hooli before will know that. So we'll see if the update when that arrives in just over a week and a half time is a RuneScape Classic. But in the meantime, we'll be doing Underworld tasks next week.
One thing you just say there, and about the free-to-play model, and we're talking about sort of getting people in and getting more memberships and things, and that's going back to, I think it was Warden who wanted to lift all skills, all member skills, to level 20 for free-to-play players. I still think that's something that they should be doing and actively looking at. I mean, level 20 is not great. I mean, level 5 is ridiculous. You do that in 30 seconds on most skills. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get level 20, that gives people a taste of things. And I really, really think for the benefit of the game that level 20 free to play on everything is not a bad
Also,
thing. It'll give
like,
people
but
a
at
good
the same
taste.
time, like, what is free to play at this point in time? Is it a demo or a limited version of the game? If it's a demo, it
Hmm.
makes sense how it is. But if they want it to be um, a limited version of the game, they should look at doing more for free to play. Like, for example, I could see the Slayer skill being made free to play and having free to
Yep.
play Slayer creatures in there. Because there'd
Yeah,
be nothing
that's right.
wrong
I mean,
with that,
you don't have to
right?
hire. No,
Like,
of course not.
consider,
And
like, you have the Slayer Master in Edgeville, right? And
yep,
there you go.
that's right. Yeah. They only get all the sort of lower level creatures, but that's fine. And then for people who want to have do that type of thing, but it gives people a good taste of different things. It gives them a chance to earn some extra gold where they can then buy bonds
Oh,
and go into that.
That's actually a. We're going to come back to bonds, but that's actually a really interesting idea.
Though, and it just sort of popped me when you said Slayer, because Slayer,
Go ahead. You first. Then
Slayer is one of those ones that people do to make a bit of money. So if you can get players doing Slayer, and they're going to do the low level ones, and it might take them, a full week or 10 days to get the money up for a bond, but then they can go, okay, well I'm going to buy a bond, 14 days membership, give it a try. Oh, this is great, and then okay, now when I get my bond and I can start going to those higher levels, I'm going to start earning more, and they're going to buy more bonds and keep going and try and keep that membership active. And anything that brings players in that way, because much as treasure hunters great for their money making side of things, it leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And if you can generate more money via membership, sell your bonds, get your memberships that way, great.
And this leads me to an interesting idea.
Yep.
How would RuneScape play as an entirely free-to-play venture? As in, you start off as a free-to-play player, and how long would it be to get your first 143 bill right now? To get your first 14 days of membership. And then after that, could you upkeep with the levels that you had that level of GP income to maintain 100% free-to-play character?
That's where you sort of run into things, because a lot of people skilling at the moment is not in a great area in most skills for money making. You do have to sort of do those bosses and such, or the higher level Slayer creatures. But you could, just doing Slayer and farm runs, you could probably, if you can get your farm levels up high enough, you could maintain it.
Yeah. And see, that's the interesting thing, is RuneScape are you able to 100% play RuneScape for free to play, either in the free world, right? Or by moving to membership and maintaining the level of GP income to be able to earn one bond every 14 days if you wanted to do that.
That's it.
I think that's an interesting economic thing to talk about, and also an interesting place of the game thing to talk about too.
The problem with that is,
should I do it?
Sort of start for it would be an interesting experiment. What I would look at though is the problem is play style. I mean, if you have to spend 12 days of that 14 days earning the GP to get membership, it doesn't really leave you a lot of time to do the things you want to do.
I mean, unless you're doing PVM, which
exactly. If you're a PVMer, you can do it easily. But if you're someone who wants to sit back and level up and max out things, it does sort of limit you there.
Yeah. So it just, and we'll get to the patch notes in a minute here, folks. But right now, I think the lowest intensive thing that you could do is spend a few hours in total, and I mean a few, catching the plain whirly gigs and making powders out of them.
Mm.
And with that would be enough to get you the membership involved with that, or for that, rather.
So what?
Because it says
5 or 6 hours?
Less than that, like 3.
Okay. So 3 hours. So that's basically
dazzling,
1 day's play.
Dazzling whirly gigs are about 44 mil an hour.
Okay, and what level hunter do you need for those?
That's a good question. I'm just 1 for dazzling.
Oh wow. Okay,
and that's the most expensive. One of the most expensive powders. It makes the powder of penance.
Yeah.
And the powder burial's the most expensive one. Comes from level 90. But I mean,
that's
hey,
what I use.
dazzling whirly gigs. Of course, the only thing is that you need to get enough money to buy yourself some golden rose baits, and then you're off to the races with that. But I think that would be the most straightforward way to go about that. But an interesting discussion. I don't know how we got on the merits of free to play out of this.
Yeah, sorry. That was you just sort of when you mentioned the free to play stuff, and that was just me. That's me waffling on again, people.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I think it's an interesting discussion, and hey, maybe if I wasn't busy questing on old school, it'd be something that I would be doing for a third account right now.
It would be a very once I do sort of hit 200 mil all, it's something that might be that I will probably look into just as an experiment.
Right? Can you play RuneScape 100% free to play? I know I can do it once I unlock necromancy and bosses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's it. But just
But in any case,
that's a really interesting experiment.
It is. It is.
I'm going to jot that down. I'm going to do one day. Even if I just take 2 weeks and just sit there and go, hey.
What does this game look like, and what does the XP rates look like with this, right?
Yeah.
And we'd even be fair. We'd even be fair to say, if you see a promo that says, you get a week free membership, you could use that, or if you get something free promo related, that would be okay. But
speaking of promos, I logged in and they're doing the double key offer again.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. On to patch notes this week. Interestingly enough, not too much here, but a lone dwellberry bush has been removed in Catherby.
Did not know they had one there, but good.
I didn't know they had one either, and that's the weirdest thing about that. I'm guessing it was an error. They removed references to the RuneScape forums in the Iconist dialogue, who is, of course, the person who would take the picture and then have that have your profile picture appear on the website. Rest in peace, forums. Updated the audio in the Kandarian region to better fit with the newly updated graphics. Improved click boxes on the Cruxical Knights in the Garden of Carid. Updated the Grave Scorpion model. No problems this time with ginormous scorpions making all the pets big. I know. And under the engine fix is a long-awaited fix that a lot of people have been waiting for. And this is fixing an issue that caused wisps to be unclickable, as well as fountains and chronicle fragments in crowded divination areas.
They've said they fixed that before, and it's just like, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, they say this has been a persistent one, and they'll be closely monitoring this. So, and I mean, even with this, it means that it could still not be fixed, but we at least have a stab taken at it.
All they need to do is make that the prominent one over and above players, because the main issue is you can't click on it, so you right click, but it's just all player names.
Yeah.
I think it's when there's too many players on top of that area,
right? That's a victim of the success, because you do want to do divination in this day and age on the divination world to get the most XP.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Also fixed an issue where changing graphic settings from the login screen could cause an indefinite loading screen, and fixed an issue where a memory leak would affect some Qualcomm Android devices, especially USA Samsung devices. Interesting distinction there, and I'm guessing that's just to be how the chips are architectured. And finally,
Samsung fire starters.
Yeah, thankfully they've kind of moved on past that and aren't doing that anymore. And optimized texture loading again on the Qualcomm Android devices. And that's important too if there's ever going to be an ARM version of the RuneScape client, or if it'll run on the new Copilot Microsoft PCs that are out there, because those are all using Qualcomm ARM chips in them. So, but not too much in the patch notes this week. I'm going to take a moment here and thank our Patreon supporters for this episode. And at the top of that, just give a mention about two things. Firstly, our most recent monthly bit that we recorded last week on level 110 skills is now out. We chose some skills, I think, that are kind of unconventional, that people typically don't think would go to 110 next, but we had a good discussion on them, because the caveat was that we can't we really don't want to talk about taking skills to 110 that are broken. And of course we're talking about skills like fire making, agility, and hunter in that camp. So we chose three other ones.
That would have hurt Sirion.
No, he actually proposed two of the three skills here in this episode that we talked about, and they're the ones that you typically wouldn't think of that could go to.
But he's such a fire making lover. Yeah. He's our resident arsonist.
That's right. In any case, I'd like to thank Alvaro L, Amos Reed, Andrew C, Arvid L, Brayton K, Chulbura, Daniel W, Dominic R, Drama Free, Duramax, Keela Fleur, Jacob G, Jade Gizmo, Jason S, Jesse W, Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Parnassius, Ricky A, Rippeth, Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Targagine, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Truth Ray, Ukulele Steve, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you to everybody out there. And as you all know, we are approaching very quickly the 1,000 mark for this episode. So there are some things in the work, maybe some things that Patreon members will receive as a commemorative effect of 1,000. We haven't exactly decided where they're going to go in the tiers yet, but we're working on one or two things for that. So if you're at all interested in maybe receiving something around the 1,000 mark, you can also check us out at patreon.com/RSBANDB. That's where also for as little as $1 a month, you get all those monthly bits or the bonus shows that we talked about, upwards of 70 of them now. You also get the ability to vote on those monthly bits and attend our roundtables as well. And of course, you also get our thanks for funding the costs for hosting and production of Update. For the VIP tier, that's $3 a month. You receive a special rank on Discord, including chat channel access, a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, as well as high-quality stereo versions of the show, in addition to everything else. And for $5 a month, you can opt to receive the clips that we use for the clip show at the end of the year, and you'll also be included here to receive the RSBANDB Update Christmas card. And we do have the experience tier right now that is, I emphasize right now, 100% is sold out for that, but do keep your eyes peeled, folks. Chances are we'll have something to offer for when 1,000 comes around in just about 6 short weeks from this time right now. So
we're getting close, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Thanks so much, everybody. I know, right? I was hoping it would kind of line up with RuneFest, but that's happening in March now. But in any case. The Vintage Beachwear this week is also available in the RuneCoin store, another cosmetic offering, similar to what we talked about last week. This one doesn't really speak to me. I actually went out and bought the vintage, or sorry, not the vintage one, but the one that came out last week. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, Vintage Beachwear, maybe yep. it kind of evokes a more nostalgic feeling, something a little bit more traditional there.
For us old fat people, it's a good one.
Oh boy. What did you say?
But yeah, I mean, us old fat people. because it covers up a lot more than the skimpy ones.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, you're talking about yourself there. I had to put two and two together, right? Because you wouldn't necessarily want to be walking around, I guess, on a beach, very scantily clad. Would you?
No, I don't go to the beach anyway. But no, if I go to the beach, I've got the t-shirt, I've got the knee-length shorts.
Yeah, I guess you probably have quite a few of those down there, don't you?
We have a lot of beaches down there, yes.
Okay, fair enough. So I
do go during winter to take when the dogs are allowed down there. We take the dogs down.
Oh, that's nice.
Summer, I avoid it.
Okay, fair enough. But anybody interested in a top hat? With the Vault of Riches promo?
Yeah. It was funny when you were telling me about this yesterday, because once I sort of I read through the updates, I get down, we go through the patch notes. It says Treasure Hunter calendar. I said, okay, that's it. I sort of switch off there. So I didn't even know that this was coming in until you told me yesterday.
Yeah, so what it is there's 3 new top hats on Treasure Hunter under the Vault of Riches promo. A blue, a red, and a green. And of course they're more ordained than the top hats that we have in game with the clue scrolls right now. And if you get the 3 top hats that they're calling Emerald, Ruby, and Diamond rather than blue, even though it looks blue, you can combine them and you can get a golden top hat that you can wear. And I haven't had a chance to look into the community on this week, and I didn't really see too much chatter on this, but this seems to be less offensive than the dyes, even though we already have a top hat in game. So maybe this is the way to go. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as I said, I didn't even know about it until you mentioned it yesterday, and sort of, I do sit on a lot of populated worlds where people do tend to scream about things a lot. So the fact that no one's talking about it, I think, means they've probably hit the right spot here.
Yeah. Okay.
Although since they stole dyes from clues, maybe these should have gone on clues. But hey, I'd much rather see the dyes stick to clues and put these top hats and cosmetics on Treasure Hunter. These are great. I mean, these are the type of things that Treasure Hunter should be about.
Yeah, I just did a quick Reddit search, and there's only been 2 mentions of the word top hat in the last week.
Well, there you go.
So it's not, blowing up like the guys did.
Yep, they've hit the right spot then.
Right, but here's the question: does this actually sell? Like,
that's what I mean. Do people want it?
Like, I understand we have the ability in game to make things that look truly great. And a lot of things do look that way. But I just think when you look at these things and you put them on a character model, they're just so flat.
Just looking at the pictures that they've got there, it doesn't really sort of suit the head well, does it?
No. And maybe it would be better if we had actual hair and cloth in game.
Yeah.
Like hair that could move in the wind, cloth that could move into the wind. Maybe something like that would have an impact on that. But
hey, maybe they'll bring out a full outfit to go with it in the future, and then it'll.
Well, see, that's the thing. It kind of does look like they're pairing it with something, but I don't necessarily know what that outfit is.
No, that's what I was just looking at. I thought,
I think that's got to be in the game. That's got to be in the game already, perhaps, and I just don't know what it is. My Fashionscape is not up on that. So
yeah, no, it's not something that I sort of recognise. But I don't really do Fashionscape. That's why we need Tannis here.
That's right. That's right. He has his iconic Elven Sniper
that's
suit. They're also marketing this one as at a chance of receiving 1 billion coins, which of course you can receive on here. And maybe that's the talk of inflation creeping its way back into things. Maybe that's the start of the discussion about just what exactly is going on with bonds. Because you mentioned this to me this week, that you wanted to have a bit of a look back into how this goes in terms of the bond pricing. And that's why I mentioned that free-to-play account idea was such a such an interesting one, because the question is, how does somebody, at what point could somebody, make 143 mil every 2 weeks to a point that they'd be able to, afford their membership? I know you definitely can't do that with dailies. You have to definitely be doing something active for that.
Yep.
So the question is, why have bond prices more than doubled in the past year? And you can see this. You look at the price presently, we're hovering at about 143, 145 mil. And if you go all the way back to this time last year, we were at 65, 66. So
are less people buying bonds with real money, which is inflating the price because people want to get bonds for membership, so they sort of add 5%, add 20% to try and get them quickly? Or was there something else? Because Premier Club is now available all year round,
so it's not going to see the massive upticks at the start.
Exactly, because normally you'll see just before sort of your October, November, the big increase in bonds starts happening then. We don't really have that to worry about it. Although still people who do get Premier Club every year, that is the time they would have signed up. So that you would expect that to stay that way. But as you said, they went up a year ago, 65 mil, and now
they're double that.
Yeah.
And see, the thing that I think is interesting to look at with this is that you can say, well, maybe the price of bonds themselves have gone up, and we have the June 25th increase that we talked about at length a number of weeks ago on the podcast. In terms of the U.S. price, they went up $1 from $7.99 to $8.99, and the last increase before that was on May 4th, 2022, when they went up to $7.99 from $6.99, and before that it wasn't until 2018 that they went up to $6.99 from $5.99. And I think at one point prior to that they were just flat $5, but
$5. I think that was when they first came out.
That's when they first came out until 2018. Or 2015 rather, with that.
Yep.
And
so what? They've been in game over 10 years now, haven't they?
Yeah, that was a mod MMG classic, and I think this more than anything probably saved the game.
Yep. Oh, definitely, because of the gold sellers out there at the time. I thought it was a brilliant way to combat them. And when you look at it, 3 price rises in 10 years isn't too bad.
No.
When you consider, A, what inflation is, but B, you've also got to consider cost. Their cost for rent, their cost for electricity, their cost for wages. That all does have to be covered, and you still got to have a profit there for the investors. I know that's a dirty word, profit, but it's not a charity. The investors put their money in it because they want something back. So, the people who work there because they want to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. So $1, as you worked it out, at 12% over the 6 years or 5 years since we've had the last increase is that sort of 2.1% inflation rate. That's great. That's about where you want it. $1 is not a big hole in someone's pocket. And on the show where you were discussing with Earth and Tanis, Tanis was sort of saying, "Oh yeah, but I buy 10 bonds, it's going to go up $10 and such like that." He buys it mainly for gold. He's saying he's not going to get as much value for money, but as we see here, they are going up. So whereas previously his $8 was getting him, $110 million, now if he sells it, it is, his $9 is now going to get him $145 million. So he is still getting bang for his buck there.
Yeah.
It's not really going to affect those gold sellers that he was talking about because, 6 cents per million gold. Really, is a gold farmer going to sit there? And to be fair,
we don't necessarily know what the live price of a bond is right now. I'm not going to, pay the 13 mil tax to just go and
to
go and sample that right now.
In in clan chat they were talking about it a couple of days ago. 153 mil insta buy.
Okay, so a little bit more than what the GE price is saying. So we can just round that to 100.
Say 150 mil.
Yeah, 150, give or take, with that.
Yep.
And you know what? I think the interesting thing is here, we're also looking at two different things for this. The first thing is, with these bond prices, is that what was the big key update of last year? The big key update, one of the big key updates of last year, was that they increased the grand exchange limit in terms of how much you can buy, in terms of, the amount of GP that can be traded.
Yes.
But
that's right. I forgot
they
about that. They
also changed the death cost system and added the grand exchange usage fee.
Yeah.
That 2% GE fee that people like calling a tax, but it's really a convenience fee.
Exactly.
And my theory on this is that, based on what we're seeing here over time, just the gradual increase in the price of bonds, is that I think we're seeing something here due to the amount of GP that's available as a supply in game.
Oh yeah.
As in, we're seeing that grand exchange fee in action of making it so that, the amount of GP in game really isn't as plentiful as it once was. So the GP is being, in effect, put into, the skilling supplies and whatnot. Whereas the other things, the other tangibles like bonds, they're going to be a lot more rare because they're backed by the physical real world currency. They're not backed by magic logs, as you know, right? As just an example, or fire runes. So what that means is that something that doesn't have a backing in game with an actual commodity like that is going to go up in price in game, right?
Yep.
So that's, I think, how I prefer to reconcile what's going on in game with the bond prices. But I think another interesting thing that we didn't mention on that episode is that what exactly is happening to the GP supply in game with this, and maybe that is the whole reason. And one of the reasons, aside from inflation, because 12% over 2 years, and then you average that out to inflation for where we've been since the prices increased. What you wind up with in that case is again something that says that, well, Jagex needs to increase this price on the bond in order to keep the in-game economy healthy as it is how I would put it.
What I would love to see is sales rates over the last 3 months compared to sort of the same 3 months last year. Are we getting sort of less bond supply, which is causing some of this increase? Is it now that because, we don't have to buy things and keep them in the bank? Yeah, you don't have to buy spirit shards and all that anymore.
Yeah.
Because you can keep your gold there. I've got a max stack of cash in my bank, and then I've got 1.5 bill in my coin pouch. I don't have to sit there and buy something for that gold now. So gold is accumulating. People are allowing their gold
and that's
to build
the
up.
That's the entire thing, is that it might not necessarily be, just about making things a little bit more expensive in order to recoup costs that you have in terms of running things, because I think you have better ways of doing that. You would, orchestrate that through a membership price increase or through Premier Club price increase, dare I say it. But in terms of managing the actual prices of the stuff in game, it could just come down to GP supply management, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
Because that's another lever they can pull, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So,
and that's the whole thing, and that's what I was saying. $1 in the scheme of things is not a whole lot when you're comparing. Okay, it's 6 cents per million now. It's 6.1 cents per million gold. You are trying to keep the game economy healthy You're trying to take gold out of the system with your fees and things like that to keep all that generating and running. People are sort of banking more GP these days.
Yeah,
it's a really good...
and I think that we didn't realize that on the first episode that it could be a GP supply issue over anything else.
Yep. And that's why I wanted to sort of revisit it, just to sort of, we've had that couple of weeks to start thinking, why, and this type of thing, and what effects we are seeing in game.
Yeah, absolutely on that. And, again, you need a bond, you're going to get a bond. There really is no issue about it. And we kind of, at this point, earlier in the show said, well, maybe, you could, in effect, sustain your membership on that kind of world, right? In terms of, paying with bonds. But I don't think it economically makes sense to do that, if I'm being honest.
Well, exactly right. And that's why it'd be interesting to check out, because, one bond gives you 14 days. How many hours do you have to play to maintain that? So then you can go and do the things that you enjoy that don't make you, you're a quester, you want to do all the new quests. Am I going to be playing 12 days to earn the money to have 2 days to be able to do my quests?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I think, And that's why, I mean, it's the same like with Rune Metrics. I would love to see, you've got your bronze, silver, gold. I'd love to see a platinum membership where they add another $50 or $30, whatever it is, to it. Bring out a platinum membership, which includes Rune Metrics as well. I'm not going to buy Rune Metrics separately, but if there was an option through that, I'd just throw it on.
Yeah,
no worries.
And the reason they don't do that is apparently a technical one. Somebody asked a JMod once upon a time, why isn't Rune Metrics included with Premier Club? And they said it's a data thing, in that if everybody who had Premier Club had Rune Metrics, the servers would be overloaded in terms of what they'd restore.
And that's why I say just do a next level, because then not everyone's going to care about it and pay that extra money. But those who want it, like someone like me, I would pay an extra $30 a year to have it there. I'll check it out occasionally because it is interesting to look at, but I'm not going to go and buy it separately because it's not something I am going to look at every day.
Right. And I mean, it's something that I use always around double XP time, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think it's a great tool, but the reality is as well is that, people pay for that on the RS3 side, but on the old school side, it's just part of, the plugin API that RuneLite provides, dare I say it. So
I tell you, the Jagex just has to turn around and buy RuneLite.
Well,
and just make it an official thing.
Well, see, the interesting part about that is you can do that, but I don't necessarily know if you'd get the same level of innovation that you would get otherwise.
That's true.
With that. So,
yeah.
But in any case, I just actually want to do a quick back of the envelope calculation here right now to see if I can come back to this point that we were making. I might edit this out, so just bear with me here for a second with what I'm doing, because I need to do this just for science sake right now, if anything. So right now, let's just take the GE price of, what did you say they were selling for in Clan Chat? 150.
Was rounded to 150. Make it easier.
So if they're selling for 150 mil, and the price per million coins, so right now that is $1.06, give or take, dollars, or sorry, not $1.06. That's 6 cents per million coins, right? At 150 mil. So now, one thing I think that Jagex perhaps did on this is that, in addition to the GP flow, and this is something that also came up out of that episode, and I think this was a Sirion idea, was that maybe the dollars per GP ratio isn't what it used to be, and that could be another reason why this was changed. So if we go back to the pandemic era pricing of the bonds, just for shits and giggles. Let's just say, a bond was $6.99, right? So $6.99 it was in, let's just say, July 2020 for the hell of it, just so we can have a common sense. Like they were $6.99 back then in July.
Was that 2018?
No,
they went up last.
Yeah, they went up last, but they were that price as well in 2020.
Okay, yep.
Yeah,
so $6.99 in 2020.
Yeah, and then they went up again in 2022. So they were $6.99.
Okay, yep.
So July 6th, 2020, the bond was 20.1 mil. So with that, if something was 20.1 mil and you got 20 mil for it, yeah, there you go. That's the kicker right there.
Yep.
It was 35 cents per mil back then compared to 6 cents today.
Exactly.
So if you can,
so you're only paying 6 cents for a mil. That's that's very cheap.
Right. So if you were to take that same thing today in terms of $8.99 into 150 mil, you get that 6 cents. You can either, you don't want bond prices to go up from this, I don't think. But if you just, would hold bonds at 150, and at the same time, let's just say you would have to increase bond prices a lot to accomplish that. So maybe that's not the lever that they were trying to pull in terms of dollars per GP that was coming into the game, but maybe it will have an impact in the long run, because I don't think you can get back to that 34-cent mark.
Oh, no. And you don't want, 34 cents, gold sellers were still around at that point. But at 6, 7, 8 cents, it's not going to be worth someone farming gold for that sort of money.
And see, that's the question. Is it worth farming gold at 34 cents then? And that's the thing.
And yes, it would be.
It was a lot more worth it back then.
Yes.
So maybe then with this, the bonds are losing value. But then at this point, unless you increase bond prices astronomically or increase the amount of bonds that are in the system, you're not going to be able to, in effect, combat that. So if that was what they're going for with this, then maybe it's not going to work. Or you just have the very classic inflationary result or inflationary outcome on that.
I know, which is, I just think it's more to do with inflation. But it would be a bit, as you said, 12 months ago, 65 mil. Now, but before the update, they were 120 mil. So they basically doubled over that 12 months.
Right. And but at the same time with this, if you look at it from this perspective, you could basically spend $90, out of pocket if you wanted to, and get yourself a best-in-slot weapon if you didn't want to grind for it.
Exactly.
And, I don't think I would personally do that, but I bet there are definitely people out there who have done that.
Oh, of course. And, for someone who just, they enjoy bossing, they've got discretionary funds. $90. That's a dinner
right.
out.
So it's like, do you want to spend the time to go for your fractured staff? And I'm choosing the fractured staff for Bow of the Last Guardian. Do you want to spend that time, or do you just want to,
buy it and go and do what you want?
Buy it up front and resume your PVM stuff.
Yep, exactly.
So, and
$90 for entertainment these days is not a lot of money, really.
Really?
Something you're gonna have forever. I'm talking Australian.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. It's $26 for a movie ticket, and that's not gold
for
class. For one movie ticket, it is $26 here.
Is that
if you
IMAX?
Don't go on Tight Ass Tuesdays. No, that's the standard one. We have something called Gold Class as well, where they have the recliner chairs and they bring food to you and all that. They're $50 a ticket. If you order a beer, that is $11. If you order some wings and chips, that is another $23.
I honestly can't think of a movie in recent history
Oh.
that I would go pay that much to see.
Exactly. I mean, I'm lucky
Or even,
that,
the $25. And even
Yeah,
then, you have
no.
a difficult enough time to getting me go see a movie.
Yeah. I mean, I stopped going to the movies when they were like $15, but I'm lucky that my son he's got his full-time job, but he still works part-time at the cinemas, so he gets free tickets. So if there's anything we want to see, we just use his free tickets and go and see it. But I mean, I've got an 80-inch OLED TV on my wall with surround sound system and all that. Turn off the lights, sit back.
Yeah. What do you use for surround sound?
I've got an LG soundbar with rear speakers.
Okay,
Yeah.
how is that?
That's brilliant.
Yeah, because I've always wondered how the sound bars go. Compared to like a full 5.1 with, I guess, the rear. Yeah. You said you had the rear speakers?
As, I mean, yes, mine has the rear speakers, which I honestly don't turn on that often because I've only got a small place, and the soundbar with the woofer does more than enough. I mean, my windows can vibrate. Exactly. If I crank it up loud enough, I mean, I can have the neighbours knock on the door complaining if I wanted to. But, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's
like, why, right?
Exactly.
And that's what I would like if I had an Apple Vision Pro. That's the thing I would be most interested in using it for, is just, getting like that, movie theater type screen right in your face with the directional audio. So,
yep. And that's exactly what I have. We can kick back there, watch everything we want. It's exactly the same. I don't have, people talking and rattling things behind me. My popcorn is 90 cents, not $15, $16. That's,
Yeah.
So 90 to an Aussie, $90 is not, although given I think our bonds went up to $11, not the $9 you had there, but still.
Yeah, that was the US price, $8.99.
Yeah, but still, I mean, 100.
They're $11.49 Australian.
So there you go. So $115. Yeah, it's expensive, but it's something you're gonna basically have forever. That weapon. Yeah, you can sell it and get upgrade it again later on if you wanted to, things like that. But overall, it's something that's going to be with you in game for a long time. It's to me, it's not a lot of money. Oh well, to me, it is a lot of money because I don't have discretionary funds. But in that general thinking of the wages and all that down here, it's not a whole lot when you compare it to other entertainment things
or other games that have gamble box mechanics like the Star Trek Online meta ships that cost $150 to $200 or $150 to $200 rather. The same sort of in-game scale on that based on what you would be spending. So and it's a huge difference, but I think it all comes down to how you look at that. But in any case, what have you been up to on RS?
Not a whole lot. Just a lot of AFKing. I basically spent all weekend and up to Tuesday down here at the beach, doing a little bit of log cutting, just trying to get that up to sort of bring construction. I've got 3 skills left to get to 190, and then it's the 200 mil fast track on them all. Doing my daily, go and spend a couple of hours at Nodons for the bones. But other than that, my Sandy Clue scrolls, do those every day.
Oh, okay.
Don't forget those. Free.
I've never felt the need to go for the Sandy title.
Well, no. It's just for the clue scrolls down here at the beach. You just you don't have to go outside the beach anymore. They changed it this year. Everyone's inside the beach, so you knock them over in under a minute. And you pick up a lot of the fortunate components from it. I mean, I don't think I've had one where I haven't got at least one fortunate component. So free 1.5 mil every day.
And those count towards log.
They do, correct. So that's basically been it for me.
Okay. Fair enough.
How about yourself?
I didn't think that those were viable to do. Nice.
Yep. And they gather up. So if you miss a couple of days, you can go back and get your previous day's ones as well.
as for me, when I've had the time, I'm still going for the beach stuff. Try and knock out my daily ice creams there in the hopes of getting the dungeoneering pets, so I don't need to ever go back into Daemonheim.
Yes.
So there's that. Also, I've also been trying to do an hour, a bit a day, sometimes a bit more at Vorkath normal mode. Progressing slowly but surely towards that 100 KC to get the
very nice.
To get the upgraded Nexus. I should have that in time for when the Sanctum arrives, because I know based on what they were talking about with accuracy, how they wanted to do something with accuracy-based bosses, I'm starting to think, well, if the NPCs are leaning onto accuracy, maybe I should be leaning into my defensives a little bit more. And with Necromancy, and if I'm not wanting to use a shield swap, well, I really should get the extra 15 levels or so for greater bone shield. So that was the idea behind that.
Definitely. I have the bone shield on all the time just so I can just occasionally click it if I need it without having to worry about bringing shields and things.
Oh yeah, it's a lifesaver because slaying Switchscape is something that many people view as a form of skill expression, but at the same time, it's just in what other combat based game would you expect to be asked to switch equipment, right? So,
I still think there should be a 3 or 4 tick delay when you.
Well, yeah, that was that whole charging 9 thing. That was charging 9 for the set effect, and people didn't like that, and I think there's opportunities in the future for where to lean in on something like that. But 2 big pieces of news on the old school front, though. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, while Gothic Sleeps came out, we'll be discussing that on this week's show over there, youtube.com/@OSRSupdate and update.show/OS. We'll be discussing the quest itself and the rewards and everything associated with it. I did that. It's done. It's an interesting trip down nostalgia lane. That's what I'll say for that right there, and leave it at that for the rest of the discussion on the old school show. But one thing I maybe can go into a little bit more is the fact that we completed Song of the Elves this past weekend, which is their conclusion to the Plague and Elf storyline.
Oh, yeah.
And, just like Plague's End, it does the same thing where you, at the end of it, and spoilers ahead for the next minute or so if you don't want to hear about Song of the Elves or what happens in Plague's End, just so it doesn't come out of left field, but you, of course, have to bring all the elven clans together after staging an uprising, or an insurrection, they actually called it, in both East and West Dordogne. So there was that fun part of the quest. Then there were bits involving Lady Traherne and her exoskeleton. There was, unlike what we had in Plague's End, there was another section with the Elven Library involving a series of light puzzles. Yes, plural. Light puzzles, believe it or not.
Oh, yum.
Yeah. We thought, we'll do this without a guide. We got the first 2 or 3 done before we said, we'll be here for another 8 hours if we don't use a guide on this.
Yeah, but that's fun.
No, we wanted to get it done. We wanted to get it done
of course.
At a reasonable rate of time with that.
You also have a reason for wanting to get all those done. So
yeah,
yes.
and the interesting part about all that, after completing Song of the Elves, you still, fight the Fragment of Saren, which is a representation of the Dark Lord and the same sort of curse that we had on the RS3 side. They didn't lean into the full Zamorak thing like they were thinking, but their version of Prif is certainly not as powerful as what we have. In terms of, it doesn't have, best in slot meta training as it did when it came out. It does have a mining-based skilling boss, though. So that's interesting.
Oh, that's good, yeah. But, I mean, is that a bad thing if it's
it's not.
Best in
it's
slot?
Not.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Not. Because it really lets all the other pieces of content out there rise to the top and in effect show their own thing, because there's there's things you'll go to Prif for, like it's got one of the best woodcutting teak spots in game, whereas if the old school woodcutting meta method is using tick manipulation and cutting teaks, That's how you get your best woodcutting XP in game. It's got, a Prif agility course and whatnot too. But overall, had a good time with that, I think, in terms of, just remembering what we did in the quest. But, of course, if you want to hear these old school adventures, you can listen to the old school RuneScape update each and every week. But that's what I've been up to.
Very good.
All right. We do have some achievements this week. So starting off, we have Adani with 120 Prayer on July 10th. Congratulations. Dankarai with 99 Hunter. Ormean with 99 Defense on the 9th. Dom the Mexican with 99 Dungeoneering on the 8th. Chaotic Eric with 120 Farming on the 7th. And Dankarai again with 99 Smithing, also on the 7th. Congratulations, everyone.
Smithing or summoning?
Summoning. Did I say smithing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's smithing on the brain. Yeah.
Summoning. Yes.
Summoning for Dane. So congratulations. Yeah, well done to everyone there.
All right. You have another pick of the week for us. What do you got?
I did. This is, surprise for me, an actual website rather than a book or a TV show. But this is called Science Alert. It's one I just go to occasionally just to sort of look up at what's happening. It has a whole range of different things, health, nature, all that type of stuff. But they do a lot on space. And the reason I sort of bring this up now is in their space news from 4 days ago, we finally know what turned on the lights at the dawn of time. And it just talks about what brought light to the universe and how it all happened. It's based on data from the Hubble and James Webb space telescopes. So it's, just talking, explaining about how the dwarf galaxies come to life and things like that. It's a really interesting website, and it's got a whole range of different things, and sort of explains it in layman's terms. That's what I like about it.
Right. So kind of in the way that, and the first thing I thought of when you mentioned this was popular science.
Yep.
Is a good way of, in effect, putting the genre on there. Oh, I see. Space. Yes. And do you know with this in terms of like how often they publish and where they in effect get their lean from? Like, do they have a core like guiding principle behind them, I guess? Or
No, I don't. I sort of haven't really looked into that, but their information does come, generally from reputable sources. I always sort of check where it's come. Like this one has come from, the Swinburne University of Technology and the University of Pittsburgh. So they've got photos from there. They talk to actual astrophysicists. They do. It's not based on sort of hearsay and things like that. They do actually investigate things.
Yeah, and just going to the article you were mentioning about the lights in the universe, that was actually, initially the story was based on an article that was published in the Nature Science Journal, which is very important because a lot of media these days, both science and non-science, typically just write and that's the end of it. They don't necessarily publish where things came from in terms of the data on this.
Yep.
So I appreciate that.
Yes.
Because
it's just a good little website. So it gives you, and as I said, it's in layman's terms, so it's easy to understand for most people.
Right, because if I wanted to go look back, I could just go and see the I guess the science behind what was actually being talked about, and lo and behold, it's actually here. So I appreciate that, and it's not too often that we do have a pick of the week that is a news source on there, because that's just in itself in terms of
these days
is something
and that's
that
yes.
it's hard to walk down the middle, let's just say, on that.
It is. It's I call them journo activists these days, because it's generally their opinions heavily color the content that they produce.
Yeah, and people might
Whereas
say it's like one side or the other, but you definitely see you see it on all sides. You just need to have a like a critical eye for it.
Yeah, I mean, I am right leaning, but the right is just as bad as the left in their news reporting. But this, what I like about this, it's more that clinical old style reporting. It's actual reporting, giving you the facts and all that, and letting you sort of decide on things. There are some of the writers in there who you can sort of tell their bias, but as a general rule, it's a pretty good site.
Sounds good. ScienceAlert.com. And here I thought this was going to be an off the cuff Australian magazine or something to that effect.
It is a general one. I won't give our political ones this week.
Alrighty then. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of this episode of Update. If you do want the podcast delivered automatically to you, the best way to do that is to subscribe. We're on all the podcast listening services out there: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and more. And just a note for anybody still listening on Google Podcasts, that's a service that is being sunset at the end of the summer, I believe, or it already has been from the looks of this. So just keep in mind, if you were on Google, move on over to YouTube as well as a good place to get the show, youtube.com/RSBANB, and do give us a like and subscribe there. Greatly helps the channel out. But with that being said, we'll be back next week for another episode of Update discussing the new Underworld hard and elite task sets. So until then, see you then, everyone. Take care.
Happy Skyping all.